How you guys doing?
This is the second edition of the Greybeards Report. As before, today I'm joined with Chuck Ross.
Hello.
It's a new year. It's the beginning of a new decade. And we've reached a new level of absolute fuckery beyond anything this community has ever seen before. And please don't be concerned. YouTube is aware that my channel's content is not intended for children.
No, that's good news.
With this report, perhaps it will be. That said, I think today's sponsor should be Total Wine. What do you think?
I'm all for that.
We may all need a couple stiff drinks to get through this. I know that we had talked in the last episode about reviewing for you today the situation with the FEMA claim denials and the reasons for them. Also, I believe
Public records
request with the obstruction of information there, and
whistleblower,
and the whistleblower update. But no. We got a juicy, spicy take for you today.
Got breaking news
of over the last week that we deemed both was more important and time sensitive. So,
I think definitely.
So let's get started. I'm going to read from an article that was in the Miami Herald today. We're in the paper again. And it is titled, "Drag the Mayor from Her Home. Delay in swearing in new leaders causes panic," written by Martin Valsolo. And I hope I pronounced that correctly, Martin. If not, my apologies. The special election results to fill 2 vacant commission seats in Biscayne Park were certified by the Miami-Dade County Election Department last week. But the swearing-in ceremonies for the winning candidates were delayed 2 days after a planned ceremony was abruptly canceled at a chaotic public assembly Tuesday. Angry residents crammed inside the tiny village historic log cabin Tuesday to demand that 2 new members of the commission be sworn in and that the village certify the election results. But the surprising absence of Tracy Trumpman, which the administration had been made aware of 5 hours earlier, meant that just 2 sitting members of the 5-seat commission were present, and as such we did not have a quorum.
Can I interject?
Curious. Yes.
The room was very tense. Let's just say that.
That's a fair assessment.
Yes.
The village charter stipulates that new commissioners will commence their term within 10 days of the election, and that deadline was to be today.
Yes.
And I do understand they were sworn in yesterday.
They were at 4:30 at Village Hall.
Under protest, or do we know?
No. Apparently, somebody came to their senses and realized that that they could be sworn in after all. And I don't know if we want to get into the events that. But you go ahead, and then I'll add in.
We'll get back. Okay. Back to the article. About 7 p.m. Tuesday, the village contract attorney Rebecca Rodriguez from
Gray
Robinson informed the crowd that Trumpman would not be attending the meeting and that it would be canceled. Robinson quickly walked out of the log cabin and did not answer phone calls from the city manager, Christian Mild Manners. Now, before we move forward, why on earth would this notification have come from the attorney and not the clerk or village manager?
It doesn't make any sense, because if a commissioner is not going to attend, then they should notify the clerk, and the clerk would announce at the meeting, or the manager. But why the attorney? It's highly out of order.
But knowing the connection already discussed between these 2 people, why on earth would you do that to yourself?
Listen, I wish I had an answer.
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
Someone started yelling, "Lock the doors," said Miami-Dade County Commissioner Sally Heyman, who was in attendance. Someone said, "Drag the mayor from her home." The village has been in a state of turmoil recently, Heyman said, referring to the former police chief who's been jailed. We've heard that already.
Yeah.
And also addressing that the last year, 2 of Tracy's hand-picked commissioners quit within a month of each other. On the agenda Tuesday, apart from the swearing in of the 2 new commissioners, was the election of a new mayor. Curious.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on. With so much on the agenda, did Trumpman give the city a reason why she couldn't attend? Not one I can repeat, Mild Manners said in a brief interview Tuesday. We really don't need press on this. Of course, Christian will just sweep it under the rug as you are so wont to do.
That's what you want to tell the press,
Yes.
that we don't want to tell the press.
Well, at least he's consistent.
Well, that's true.
A copy of an email exchange between Rodriguez and Trumpman obtained by the Herald shows that Rodriguez knew about the mayor's expected absence as early as 2:21 p.m. Yes. Heyman, who represents Biscayne Park, called the attorney's actions unacceptable. She said the mayor's absence was suspicious, considering the 10-day deadline to certify the election results. Shame on them, Sally said, the attorney to know it, and the mayor to do it. I think quite a bit of this was intended and strategically done. I think people were aware of some of these conditions. That makes us all the more troubling. So that's what we had in the paper today.
Before you get to that, I'd like to chime in as far as if the attorney knew 5 hours before the meeting, why didn't somebody say something? We had a sitting commissioner, Sally Heyman, county commissioner, come down here to our meeting. She's got a busy schedule. This is a terrible inconvenience for her.
Well, this is also a ceremonial meeting always, where you have friends and family for new people being sworn in.
There were people from other local municipalities
and
here.
it's kind of a shot in the face to all of them, poor choice of words, but you understand my meaning, to have everyone come with the intention of having a meeting that was never going to happen in the first place and was not notified.
You got a picture. We had a packed room, standing room only, and people were just, they're there to see their friends, neighbors get sworn in to office.
But one person stood in the way of all this happening.
Exactly.
Suspicious. Okay. Walking back a moment to the second leg of this, which started to unravel about a week ago today, last Friday. And then over the weekend, news started coming in that I had posted on the blog under breaking news. On January 9th, 2020, village attorney Rebecca Rodriguez filed a case for the village against Commissioner Dan Samaria. I suspect the case asks for the court to determine that Dan's seat is vacant due to non-residency. Now, what on earth is going on here? We all know Dan lives here.
I think that if you asked, most of the people in that room would have stood up and say, of course Dan's a resident.
It's a little...
It's ludicrous, frankly.
Well, and baseless.
Yes.
My question was, who authorized Rebecca to improperly pursue Dan's expulsion from office? Is he being targeted by Rebecca because he questioned Gray Robinson's bills, or is it about him kicking the Tracy Trumpman anthill? And who is footing the bill for this misguided...
Am I running
here? Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And who is footing the bill for this misguided prosecution of a sitting elected official? This topic mostly revolves around, again, Dan Samaria and village attorney Rebecca Rodriguez, though one can deduct that other people were involved. Now, taking it a step back to create some context for all of this. Starting with the September 10th, 2019 regular commission meeting, agenda item 12A, Dan Samaria raised concerns about the village attorney's invoices and future role as being excessive, with more than one attorney attending and billing for the same event, and numerous exclusive consultations with the mayor, the substance of which is undisclosed. When the item came up for discussion at the October meeting, with only 4 commissioners present, the vote to pursue further examination met with a stalemate. Dan and Will Tudor voting to task the manager to identify costs and a plan to audit the billing, and Tracy Trumpman and Betsy Wise, her pit bull, voted to drop the whole thing.
Yeah, and I'd just like to chime in on that is during the discussion, Betsy Wise and Tracy Trumpman defended the attorney, defended her billings, which is virtually them coming out against the village. They should be defending the village and questioning the billings. Very odd.
Fast forward to 2020.
Well, one more thing, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we should mention that the budget is double. They've doubled the budget on their. Let me take a step back. The budget for attorney legal fees was set at $75,000. It ended up being approximately twice that, or $150,000. This is why the billings are being questioned. Now, the other question is, why wasn't the manager questioning? That's his job.
He doesn't review the bills. He's on record stating he's fine with everything that's going on.
Well, how can you be fine when you get a bill for $18,000 when the monthly average used to be about $6,000?
Let me move on now.
Just saying.
Fast forward to 2020 and a letter sent via email to Dan from Rebecca dating January 3rd. Now remember that date, that's going to come up again in just a minute here. Connect the dots. The thrust of this letter was to question Dan's residency status dating back to 2018 and to potentially use this as a method of disqualifying him from further holding the office. Now, without getting into too much personal detail in the background of Dan, but he's been defending a mortgage foreclosure that kind of went sideways. Banks involved had been found fraudulent. They offered a settlement. He refused. Principal's jailed. It's a mess. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Now, on January 7th, 4 days later, Dan receives a notice to vacate at his property. This was during the election day.
It was exactly in the middle of the day at the election. I was there, and I saw Dan motion me over, and he was very upset.
So help me out, because I can't figure this out. How would Rebecca have known to generate an email 4 days earlier to him and 4 days earlier than when he was actually noticed at his property?
Yeah, let's just go back and do that timeline again. On what's called a writ of possession was issued on December 31st,
Okay.
New Year's Eve. Then that has to go through a process, and the writ of possession is then turned into a notice of eviction that gets pasted on the door.
Okay.
That's what happens. That happened on January 7th.
But there were some issues with the first writ. From what I understand, the address was addressed to City Hall and
There
some
was
other things.
there was
that
an
were
original writ issued in November, and
Okay.
that was listed to the wrong address. It got sent back. So now, but here's the time frame. So on December 31st, a notice of possession a writ of possession is issued. Then on January 3rd, the attorney is writing to the commissioner asking him about his residency. Now, he's still in his house, and he hasn't even received the notice of eviction yet, which didn't get served till January 7th. And now, the original question you asked me, how is she following this so closely? Great question. Why is she so involved with this? He still lives in the village.
I wish we had an answer.
Right.
Moreover, Rebecca's opinion on what constitutes permanent residency and her possible motive, which we're discussing, is one of the main points of contention here, as Chuck will explain further in a relevant case study going over the intention and what really constitutes residency. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Before that, I'd like to read another email that Rebecca sent to Dan on January 9th of this year, 2020. Good afternoon, Commissioner. I am following up on the correspondence from last Friday regarding your permanent residency. It was sent with high importance, but we have not received a response to date. Please provide us with the requested materials today, underlined, as time is of the essence on this particular issue. Thank you. Have a great day, which she should have used the sarcasm font, but she doesn't have one or
Right.
know how to use it. Rebecca Rodriguez of Council. Now, again, I wonder why this is now being treated so urgently, and why is it now so time sensitive when she's referring back to 2018?
Now, let me just chime in on that also.
Please.
On January 9th, later that day, is when she filed the lawsuit. So talk about urgency. What is going on here?
Well, I think you have case study from Miami Shores that you can tell us about what constitutes residency?
Well, there was a legal memo written in a situation in Miami Shores where there was a sitting council person who, as part of a divorce settlement, had to leave his marital home temporarily. When he did that, he moved from Miami Shores. Some residents of Miami Shores thought that that constituted him not being a resident any longer. As it turns out, the village attorney for Miami Shores wrote a very comprehensive legal memo documenting several court cases that shows that it's not just where you are, it's also where you intend to be And if you temporarily leave your residency, you don't lose it. And particularly in this case, if for some reason Dan lost his house, he wasn't going to lose his residency overnight.
Correct.
So, I mean, take, for example, suppose you're in a convalescent home and you're in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks. Do you lose your residency? Of course not.
I guess it depends on who's driving that ship.
So, I'm sorry. So the bottom line is the memo from the Miami Shores City Village Attorney lays out in very clear explanation what residency is. And Dan, according to what was in that memo, would not have lost his residence had he lost his house.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to include in the card below the entire link to the article as well as the Miami Herald article for anyone that would like to see everything in its entirety. Can you now tell us Rebecca's case study she used with her lawsuit against Dan?
Well, what Rebecca referred to is a court case where a school board member, which is elected by district, and by the way, we have no districts in Biscayne Park, that's another thing, moved from one district to another district within the same county. So in that case, she actually moved, and she protested her being removed from, that they were going to remove her from her seat, from her district seat. But in that case, this woman had actually changed districts.
Correct.
So her argument, I think, was that since she still resided in the county and the school board, you know, even though you are elected by district, you serve the entire county. That was her argument, but she lost it because she moved from District A to District B. This case is totally off point.
We're not attorneys, but certainly that doesn't sound like a relevant case study to it.
It's absolutely not relevant.
What about the letter or the email from Christian Manners? Because I think this needs to also be known as to his involvement in this entire ordeal. Would you read that for us, please?
Let's see. I have.
It's on the bottom of the bill. You've seen it there. Right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. So please email below from Gray Robinson. This is from Christian?
Yes, to Dan.
Okay, to Dan. Because we have an agreement which legally binds us to a process for making inquiries into their billing, it is inappropriate to have this on the commission agenda because my duty is to protect the village. I recommend we remove this item from the commission agenda. If we take this to the commission again, it would open us up to a lawsuit from Gray Robinson.
Now, of course, this is coming from a manager that is already on record stating that he does not review the legal bills and he finds no problem with this attorney, Natch. Of course not. He's not the one paying the bills, we are.
Of course not. We're paying the bills and they're coming out of your tax dollars.
So we have a manager suggesting that a commissioner pull his agenda item, by the way, he doesn't have the authority per our charter to do that, and an employee threatening a lawsuit if he doesn't.
Well, you know, you have to, I mean, it begs the question, if your village attorney is threatening to sue you, how could she be your village attorney anymore? It's like, it's an inherent conflict. No?
As it appears. Now, this is an email from Rebecca stating that these issues are ripe for litigation, and if this item proceeds again without giving my firm the opportunity to respond, I have one name, one reputation, and Commissioner Samaria's reckless public statements are placing me and my firm in a precarious situation with the village as a client. I have already had to address these baseless allegations with a potential client in a public hearing from another municipality. We ultimately were not hired, and I'm quite certain Dan's to blame, in essence. Please make note of this objection and the item making on the agenda. My firm and I will not be waiving it under any circumstance. And this is based on Dan bringing back again the discussion on her billing practices, which was never really answered the first go-round.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, she makes an allegation that we can't question. I mean, she makes a threat that we can't question her legal bills. I mean, you know, it's any time if someone bills you, I mean, that's not out of the ordinary to question her bills. But it sounds like further, she's saying that he made some other type of allegation against her. If you watch the video in October,
right,
I only noted that there were complaints about the billings. Nothing else.
That wasn't that the month where the mics weren't working.
And the mics
you
were
couldn't
cutting.
yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, if someone were watching that video, you've got Dan and Will Tudor questioning that they want to actually have an audit of the legal bills. And then you've got Betsy, Tracy, and Christian saying they're all fine with this. So, you know, if I was someone watching this video where the mics are cutting in and out, I'll tell you the truth, I wouldn't really be able to draw any conclusions from it.
It does seem highly suspect.
I don't believe it, frankly. I don't think it's true. Sorry.
Now, this may sound personal against Dan Samaria at this time, and that's a pretty clear assumption. Could this be the purpose of her going after his residency status in an act of revenge, and talk about baseless, and or her actions of trying to force him off the commission? Think about it. Who on the commission is Dan most affected, and who stands to benefit from him being released, potentially? Now, to tie this together, and hopefully in closing, I want to talk about the Rebecca Rodriguez and Tracy Trumpman connection. And these excerpts are going to be from an email Ross Rocks had sent to the commission and others in August of last year. Quote, "Since Rebecca Rodriguez became lead village attorney, services provided in communications and or meeting with the mayor alone comes to 25 plus hours at a fee of $4,352.50, fee adjusted for non-charge entries. This amount does not include bundled entries where other tasks did not allow me to qualify the time spent with the mayor alone. The entries generally say legal matters without further detail. I encourage you to compare Gray Robinson's to previous village attorney John Herron's time entries, and I'm certain you'll find few if any communications between Herron and the mayor alone. These are fees incurred by the village taxpayers that do not benefit the manager in day-to-day operations and do not benefit the rest of the commission in its collective decision making. The village attorney is not the mayor's personal consultant, and the village should not pay for such services. By contrast, Gray Robinson's village attorney's communication with the manager and mayor come to 21 hours, $4,725, and with the the manager and staff without the mayor, only 4.5 hours at $990.
You know, it's unprecedented in Biscayne Park that the mayor has spent so much time out of the normal time frame with the attorney. Normally, all the commissioners should have equal access to the village attorney if they wish.
Connect the dots.
Yes, connect the dots.
Further, an ordinance that had originated from Tracy regarding board member rules that was written before any discussion or approval from the commission as a body. Rebecca's stall tactics for months, addressing Dan's agenda item on a discussion of change of leadership or a vote of no confidence in Tracy's performance, her alleged reason was to delay or wait for an opinion from the Attorney General, an opinion that, by the way, never really materialized. In other words, they had no opinion.
Well, can I just
Sure.
chime in on that? What happened was that they said that is not in their purview, it's not in their jurisdiction, they being the Attorney General's office. It's for us.
Would a seasoned attorney have known this?
Yes.
So is it?
I believe so,
Is
yes.
it fair in your opinion to say it was a stall tactic?
I absolutely think it was a stall tactic.
That is our opinion.
That's my opinion, and the seasoned attorney wouldn't have even gone down that road. That's what I believe.
The FEMA appeal was assigned to Gray Robinson and Rebecca Rodriguez without the approval of the commission. They claimed it was an emergency, and of course we seem to have a lot of emergencies lately.
We have a lot of emergencies.
Under this group we do. The assignment by Tracy Christian to Gray Robinson to handle the appeal, again, was not authorized. Rebecca acted as an attorney for Tracy to add her to an amicus brief listing Tracy Trumpman as mayor of Biscayne Park on a matter of great personal importance to Tracy before the U.S. Supreme Court. This also never came before the commission, was not approved. I question if the legal services were considered a gift, and if so, was a gift reported. Lastly, Rebecca acted as the attorney representing Christian and previous commissioner Jenny Johnson Sardella when they were questioned by Miami-Dade Ethics Department was this bill to the taxpayers? So I hope this gives everyone watching a little better idea of the state of the union and where we have found ourselves. Any final thoughts as a wrap up?
You know, it's a sad state of affairs that we ended up in this. Where we're at, where we have a village attorney that's threatened to sue us. We have a mayor who disappears from a meeting, could be on purpose to prevent us, a stall tactic to prevent new commissioners from being sworn in.
Or ceding her position.
And it could be that what she's doing is trying to wait out Dan, thinking that he'll lose his residency. And that's what I suspect. And that's the most egregious thing of all. This is horrible.
Skullduggery.
It's disgusting is what it is. It's disgusting.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
And I think we'll leave you on that note. Keep growing, brother.
Yep. Have a great day.
We'll be back soon.